This bike is about to get some serious love. This is the Marin Rift Zone 2, and I've been riding it for quite a while now, and it's been really fun. But it's also going to be my main bike for the year, where I'm going to be doing a ton of filming and riding and tutorials with it. And so I feel like it's going to take a little bit of a beating this season, and I want to make sure that it's as dialed in as it possibly can be before we really get started. So in these two boxes here, I have a bunch of parts that we're going to swap out for this bike, and to be honest, most of them are actually just personal preference. This is going to help me get this bike feeling exactly how I want it. So let's dig into these boxes and see what we got. Oh, actually, this one's got to get sent back. First up, we've got Maxxis tires. DHR is always a solid bet for the rear, and I've been using these Ardent tires for the front wheel of my hardtail, so I'm going to put them on this bike as well. Next up, Hayes Dominion brakes. I swear by these things. They have absolutely blown me away. The lever feel of these, the power right out of the box, these are solid brakes. I've got these on a bunch of other bikes, and they're definitely going on this one too. Okay, so I've got SRAM GX. I bought the entire drivetrain in one shot. It's always a little bit tricky when you want to get the chain ring, the cassette, all the different pieces to fit together. It's difficult when you mix and match. So I just decided to go all in, get one drivetrain, and then we can put it all together. So this should cover the entire drivetrain of the bike. Check out this cassette. It's like the size of my head. If I can't pedal up a hill with this giant granny gear, it's a wrap. I managed to swoop these Industry 9 Enduro S wheels off their website a couple weeks ago. They had a big sale, and I'm super fired up about these hubs. The engagement on them is so legit, and I've been slowly putting these on pretty much every bike that I own. Industry 9 hubs are insane. And you know the bike build isn't complete without a set of Deity bars on it. This is their black label bar. There's a few other bits and pieces from Deity that are going to make their way onto this bike as well. I think we should do one last thing before we upgrade this bike. Let's weigh it and see how much it is out of the box. Now this is the stock bike. I haven't changed anything on it except for the pedals. So this is pretty much what you're going to get if you were to just order this bike. Now I didn't choose any of the upgraded parts based on weight whatsoever, but I have a feeling it might end up being lighter, but there's only one way to find out. While we wait for the final weight to come through on this bike, there's one other thing I want to tell you. I paid for every single upgrade that we're about to put on this bike, with the exception of the stem and the pedals. And I bought it from Jensen USA because they've been huge supporters of this channel. So they gave me an affiliate link, which I put down in the description. If you want to support this channel and help me make even more videos, use that link anytime you need to buy bike parts, and it really helps me out. 34.7, 15.7 kilograms. That's our starting weight. Let's start by removing all the parts of this bike that we're going to upgrade, and we'll set them to the side. They're still in great shape, and they'll likely end up on a bike build later this year. So here's something that I just learned. When you get the full SRAM kit like this that has the cranks and the shifting and everything else, one piece that does not come with it is the bottom bracket shell. This is the piece that goes in between both cranks, and it goes in this part right here on the bike. If I didn't happen to have one of these randomly lying around in my warehouse, I'd probably be in big trouble right now. Definitely something that you want to keep in mind if you are swapping a drivetrain out. Make sure you also order the bottom bracket shell. We've got this bike completely stripped down, and now it's time to start adding bits and pieces in. But the million-dollar question is, what should I start with? I'm going to have to rebleed this line because I'm going to put it through the frame, so this could be a bit of a mess. Or I'm going to go tubeless, which could also be a little bit of a mess. Either way, I think these are probably the two hardest things I have to do with this bike build, so we may as well get them out of the way first. Let's get rolling with these wheels. They're already set up for tubeless, so all I need to do is seat this on the rim, and then I need to put a little bit of orange seal in here just to get the whole thing rolling. Now I'm definitely going to wear eye protection when I do the fill up with my air compressor, because I've seen this go wrong way too many times. Most people already know this one, but if you're ever putting a tire on a wheel, you should always make sure that the logo of the tire matches up with the valve stem. See how the valve stem is right here in the middle of the logo? That's what you want. This makes every bike mechanic in the world happy. Now that we've made it through the hard part of getting these tires seated on the tubeless rims, we can finish off the rest of the wheels. We'll put the disc brakes on here, we'll get the cassette on here, we should be in good shape. While I'm locking down this disc rotor right here, I want to tell you about one other thing. Every Monday I send out an email, and it's a way to start your week with the best bike videos of the week, some mountain bike news, a skill to practice, and a few other little bits and pieces. If that sounds like something you'd be into, there's a link down in the description. You can check it out. Now it's time to install this giant pie plate on the back wheel. Honestly, even with the 29-inch wheel, this thing still looks pretty massive. you guys just missed some serious fun. Basically, as I was taking all the parts off the bike, I took the brake line all the way out of the bike, which is great and all, but because this is an aluminum frame, I can't use the magnet to pull the brake line through, so I had to fish the old brake all the way back through the frame, and now we're gonna basically attach it to this cable and run the hydraulic cable back through that way. That was like an hour of just like, whew. I'm glad that part's over. Let's just hope it goes smooth this way. This is the last time I'm ever going to internally route anything. Oh, that was so gnarly. We did it. Now all I have to do is bleed the brake. Shout out to this little piece that I found in the bottom of my toolbox. It had a thread on either side of it. I think they actually use these for something in the seat dropper post, but I found this little bit that's threaded on this side and this side, and I was able to thread the two hydraulic lines together and then thread it back through. That was a lifesaver. I don't know what I would have done without this little piece. We've threaded this hydraulic line through the frame, and now I have to clip off the end here and reinstall it on the lever. And hopefully if I do it right, I won't need to bleed the brakes to get them to work perfect, but
2 hours later.
Success! We got this brake all bled and ready to go, and through the magic of editing, you don't have to sit through what I just endured for the last 2 hours. What just happened? But we got the job done. These are actually really easy brakes to bleed as far as disc brakes go. Now we can actually finish off this bike. We got to put the wheels on, we got to put the chain on, and we got to dial in the shifting, and we should be in really good shape. This bike is making good progress now. It's time to tackle the drivetrain. So we're going to put the bottom bracket, the cranks, the chain, and the derailleur on this bike. But before we do that, I want to give you a little bit closer look at the bash ring. This piece right here should come on every single bike. This is one of the most underrated pieces of bike tech in the world. Basically, all it does is attach to these mounts right here. These are called ISCG tabs. And these are meant for bash rings and for chain retention devices. And what you do is you bolt this on to the very bottom of the bike here, and it protects your chain and your chain ring anytime you hit against any sort of rock or log or anything else on the trail. Super underrated, and these cost like 20 or 30 bucks. This is like the best investment you can make on your bike, if you ask me. I'm literally holding my breath this entire bike build because I just feel like some of this stuff goes too easy, and I'm not the best bike mechanic in the world, and so I just feel nervous the entire time when I'm building stuff. Like, what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? But there is something kind of satisfying about being able to do most of this stuff on your own. And I think the biggest thing, what it all comes down to, is just taking the actual time to do it. Every time I've made mistakes on a bike build, it's been when I've been in a rush just to get it together. And the more time I take and the more time I give myself to get the job done, usually the better it turns out. And honestly, when you rush and then you mess up and have to redo stuff, it ends up taking about the same amount of time. So better just to go slow and steady and focus in on each task at hand. One of the good things about this upgrade process is that I actually was able to leave this shifter cable intact, so I don't have to go through the same ordeal that I did with the hydraulic lines. I can just run the cable through this same line here. That should save me a fair bit of headache. Now, the best part about having the entire drivetrain installed is that we finally get to hear the glory of the Industry 9 Hydra hub. This thing has some of the most engagement points of any mountain bike hub, and it makes this kind of angry bee sound when it's going, which is my favorite thing about riding it. So have a listen. That's what I'm talking about. Super high engagement, which means the second I pedal, this back wheel is going to start moving, and that's going to be amazing. It's time to put the finishing touches on this bike, and that means just a giant blanket of Deity components all throughout. I'm going to have their Black Label bar, their Super Crush grips, T-Mac pedals, and we're going to finish the whole thing off with their Copperhead stem. I've been running Deity components on almost every bike for as long as I can remember. Eric and Sadie, who founded the company, are good friends of mine, and I really want to see them do well. All the parts are super strong and stylish, so why wouldn't I put them on? This bike is totally dialed in now. I'm so fired up. All the parts that I wanted to have on this bike are now completely locked in, and we're ready to go out and actually ride and do all the tutorials and sessions that we want to do this year. I cannot wait, and hopefully this rain and snow will stop at some point. So we only have 2 things left to do. Number 1, we need to weigh this bike and see where we ended up. And number 2, I think we just need to take a step back and have a look at it. Looks like about 33 pounds right on the money for this bike. So we lost a little bit of weight, but not a ton. There's definitely a few areas on this bike where I know I could drop some pounds, but I'm not too concerned about it. I need something that's gonna be reliable, stable, and is gonna hold up this year because we're gonna be doing a lot of riding on this bike. I'm happy with all the different components that we put on the bike. Really, this is sort of a dream build. There's a few little things here and there, but honestly, this is gonna be perfect for the season.